Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie had dropped out of high school before she turned 16 and got married. She would meet Clyde at a mutual friend's house and instantly fell in love, leading her to join the gang. Clyde was the leader of the Barrow Gang. It was formed in 1932. They mainly robbed banks but were idolized by the average person because Bonnie and Clyde were lovers in crime. Clyde was sent to jail in 1930, where he was supposed to serve a 14-year sentence for multiple counts of petty theft and automobile robberies at East Ham Prison Farm. This was a notoriously harsh, hard labor penitentiary. Clyde was starved, abused by guards, and raped repeatedly by another prisoner. He would go on to kill this prisoner by stabbing him to death, with one of Clyde's friends taking the blame. The prison was so terrible that inmates tried to kill themselves as a way to escape. Clyde cut off 2 of his toes so he could get moved to a medical hospital. His attempt to move to a medical hospital failed, since the officers believed the injury was not excessively harmful, so now he walks with a limp. However, 6 days later, his mother's plea for his parole was accepted, making his sentence only a year and a half. Clyde was released in February 1932. After his release, Clyde was reunited with Bonnie and the Barrow Gang. Clyde would then reignite his criminal activities with the gang and start off by robbing small stores as a starting flow of cash. However, this would not be enough to survive due to the Great Depression happening at this time, which started with the stock market crash of 1929, 3 years earlier. Once released, he and his gang decided to rob banks to make money. They did not earn much money from robberies. They ran out quick, only getting what was in cash registers, which was $1,000. They would then make their great escape due to insufficient police resources and response time, allowing Bonnie and Clyde to get away before the cops would even show up. After a robbery, a cop had stationed himself outside of one of Bonnie and Clyde's known hideouts. Sadly, the cops were underprepared and only carried handguns, which were no match for Clyde's Bar 1918. After the crazy intense shootout, they became known as cop killers by the people of the United States.
Bonnie and Clyde stayed ahead of the police by stealing a 1932 Ford V8, which was the fastest car of the time. The police were under-equipped and drove their own cars to chase after the criminals, but they were no match for the 1932 Ford V8. Frank Hammer was a Texas Ranger assigned with finding Bonnie and Clyde. He would put all his resources into catching the infamous Barrow Gang. Hammer was suggested to put them on the spot, know you're right, and shoot everybody in sight. His great plan was to match all their movements and what they did. Then Hammer decided to find them and trace them by driving around for days without leaving his car to understand how Bonnie and Clyde evaded the police. He would notice that they could cross state lines very easily within their usual path, which causes the police in one state to stop pursuit by law, so he would have to catch them on the move. Frank Hammer would eventually trace them and find a place which was secluded, knowing that Bonnie and Clyde would be there. When they arrived, the police were told to shoot on sight. As they sprayed lead into the car, Bonnie and Clyde were killed with 167 bullets. Their lives impacted America because after they died, the government placed federal insurance on banks, which meant that the FBI got immediately involved after a bank robbery. It also helped support police officers by giving them better cars and better weapons so they can be one step ahead of the criminals.